you're protecting your safety. And unfortunately, as women, we have to do this more often than people think, you know? There's no harm in saying like, oh, who are you meeting? Oh, I'm meeting my brother. Oh, my dad's waiting for me at the hotel. Calling someone and be like, hey, I'm on my way, you know? Even if you're traveling solo. But to protect your safety, there's nothing more precious than that, right?
I'm Trizzy.
And I'm Leah.
And this is Ticket to Anywhere podcast, bringing you the gear, tools, and tips to equip you for a travel-filled life.
No matter your travel experience or lack thereof, we aim to be your first stop when you're thinking of where to go, how to get there, what to bring, and what to do.
Catch the latest episode every other Wednesday on YouTube or your favorite listening app.
We'd love to connect with you. Find Ticket to Anywhere on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Pinterest, and LinkedIn.
Welcome back to another episode of the Ticket to Anywhere podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Trizzy at Triz Inc.
And I'm Leah, LA in Flight. And today's episode, we're talking about road tripping alone across the U.S. And full disclaimer, I'm not talking about across the entire United States of America. I'm talking about a little section that I road tripped last summer. So maybe about 6-7 months ago. And it was a trip that I added on before Trizzy and I were meeting in Denver for Podcast Movement, a really fun podcasting conference. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take 9 days to myself and kind of do a loop. Starting in Denver, going through southern Colorado, going through northern New Mexico, which is really cool, famous, and beautiful, you know, tacking on Santa Fe, going up through Taos, which is a tiny little cool town, hitting up some vineyards along the way. And then back up through Colorado we go. I also, added Great Sand Dunes National Park in there. And honestly, I really, really loved the road trip. But I learned a lot. And as you'll hear, repeatedly, that I don't road trip alone. That's not what I do. I go to other countries alone, but not road tripping. I don't know. It's just different here.
And the key word is solo. Like, this is a solo road trip.
Solo, yeah. And like more rural areas, just maybe where resources aren't available or things aren't open as late, right? Like restaurants and stores, or it's just getting out of your comfort zone and not having a Target every few miles, that type of thing. Because we've road tripped all over Nevada to Vegas through California, but it's different when you're doing it in places with smaller populations and just towns that aren't maybe open all the time, like the hours that we have, going from the city to the countryside. Yeah,
and it's it's such a Leah thing to do, to make a trip out of one specific event. Like we mentioned this in like the Copa America and the event episode or the sporting episode with Ed. It's like, oh, we have a podcast event going on. Let me just spend 2 weeks and then make something else happen.
Let me just spend a month going to 3 different countries.
Yeah.
Small trigger warning for the episode. I do tell a story of potentially being targeted by a stranger. So I want to let everyone know. And that will be around point number 4. So you'll hear me introduce the points in the episode. But other than that, honestly, like I learned a lot more than than things that were going on that, could have made me feel uncomfortable or whatnot. But yeah, it was just, road trip's not something I do. I was really happy to do it. I was proud of myself, learned a lot. I hope you will too. I would love to share the itinerary. And I thought it was great, kind of visited and revisited some certain places that I have been and then places that I have never been. So enjoy this episode, but not before we talk about what fuels us.
Because I know you made some coffee stops along the way.
Oh, 100%. Like if I was stopping in a town, sometimes it would just only be for coffee. I was like, oh, I saw this coffee shop. I'm going to stop here and just get like a little pick-me-up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Leah will stop at 5 coffee shops because she drinks 5 cups a day.
I will stop at 5 coffee shops. I will. And I'll just get like a small one at every one, just to try to fit them all in.
Nice.
Equal opportunity for the coffee shops. Equal opportunity in my stomach for these coffee shops. So again, shout out to Rhino for the beautiful mug, if you can see it without the green screen. I am actually drinking a single serve bag from Tres Marias Coffee from Camiguin in the Philippines. And then I put a teeny bit of pistachio creamer in it.
Yum. All right, yours is from the Philippines. Mine is a tea from my recent trip to China. I
Love
would
it.
say the tea out there is so
Fire?
much more flavorful. Yes.
Ooh.
So this is Wu Yu Tai tea,
Mhm.
jasmine flavored, and they had this ice cream, this soft serve that we went back like 3 times for because the way they made the
Wow.
soft serve tasted exactly like the tea, just like jasmine flavor, floral flavor.
Yum.
Leah, because you love floral drinks, you would have
Yes.
loved that soft
Oh,
serve.
did you bring me some?
In the ice cream,
Oh, the
sure,
soft
yeah.
serve. I thought you did. Yeah, I'm expecting the soft serve.
No, but this is a Wu Yu Tai jasmine tea in my Ember cup. So yeah,
Yum.
cheers to
All
us
right.
and cheers to another episode. Thank you, Leah, for sharing your experience in your solo road tripping.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
So, this road trip that I took last summer, for some reason, I knew that it wasn't gonna be like the solo traveling that I do in other countries, right? Like, it felt different planning for it and saying it out loud and writing things in an Excel document. I was like, "This is not gonna be me taking buses and trains in Thailand. This is not gonna be me, getting on the buses in Colombia." I was like, "I'm driving.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be kind of like west of the Midwest, like the Central West, if that makes sense, in between the Midwest and the West Coast,
Yeah.
you know? It was just gonna be quite different. I knew I was gonna spend way more money. I knew I wasn't gonna get as nice accommodation as I would in other countries. I knew I was going through some real rural areas. At that time, I didn't even know what a sundown town was. To be honest, I didn't learn what it was until after the trip.
Can you
And if
explain that? Because I don't know what a sundown
Yeah,
town is.
unfortunately, they still exist across the US, and it is basically a town that's predominantly white or Caucasian, and they make it known their presence and that, like, people of color, particularly Blacks, Africans Americans, are not allowed to, like, be outside, basically, or in public spaces when the sun goes down.
Jeez.
Yeah. It's wild. And like, with the rise of Asian hate the past few years, I'm like, it doesn't matter if you're black, Asian, whatever, I'd probably still get looked at the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually, because I didn't know what that was before the trip, I didn't do any research on that before. I just,
Mm.
okay, I'm going to take the normal precautions to be safe as a single solo Asian woman to drive through these parts, and we'll see how it goes. And in general, I was aware of the dangers of being in the US and road tripping like as a solo woman, right? Weapons, different types of areas, losing service, just cultural differences, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even. So, the trip, to sum it up, basically I started in Denver, Colorado, which is a great city with a high elevation. And then I rented a car from there and I started going south into southern Colorado, stopped in some towns and cities along the way. Then I made it to Great Sand Dunes National Park and visited that. You would have been proud. Then I continued crossed the New Mexican border and visited Santa Fe and Taos, and then road trip back up to Denver. So I did southern Colorado and northern New Mexico, and I did that in a span of like 9 days, which I thought was a pretty good amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the trip. This episode's going to talk about what I learned. I'm not going to go through the logistics of everything, but I will be pulling examples from the trip of what I learned, because road tripping as a solo woman is not something I do. And if you listen to this podcast, you know that. I'm usually in another country, staying in hostels, using public transportation. Trizzy, you road trip a lot more than I do, but you also have a partner that you road trip with.
Mm-hmm.
So,
2 Asian women.
mhm. Have you ever road tripped alone, like for a long amount of time?
Yeah, like when I do shoots for work and it's just like out in the Mojave Desert or out
Mhm,
in like super far in the valley, I would consider those are probably because there's like
mhm.
2 or 3 hours away. So a similar feel to it. And sometimes when I do have to stop at a gas station or pick up some lunch,
Yeah.
I feel the, kind of like the uncertainty of people, why are they looking at me,
Yeah.
what's going to happen to me, am I safe, even if it's daytime, I still get some sort of, still have to be on my toes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Unfortunately, we have to do that, right?
Mhm.
All right.
Definitely.
So, 5 things I learned road tripping solo across the West. Big one, and we've talked about it before on a few episodes ago, I think. Book things earlier than you need to, right? This goes
Yes.
for hotels in particular, but one thing I learned the hard way was booking a rental car earlier than you needed to. So, I ended up with an electric vehicle. Mind you, I have never even, like, sat in the driver's seat of an electric vehicle in my life. I don't know how to turn an EV on. I don't know how they function. And so when I was looking for cars for this road trip, I was looking like 2, 3 months in advance. And I was like, "Oh, great. Prices are great. They're like 300, 400 for the week. This is great. I'll just rent it later." And of
Mhm.
course, it gets down to what, 2 weeks before I'm about to leave. The time frame is mid-August for this trip. Gets down to 2 weeks. Every single gas car is gone, and I'm not saying that I wanna use gas because obviously they're not great for the environment, but they are much, much cheaper than any other vehicle at the moment, or at least back then they were.
Mhm.
And, yeah, all that was left was electric vehicles, and they were triple the price
Damn.
of a regular car. So I'm like, "Well, I need a car. I'm going on this road trip." I had bought the
Yeah.
flights. I had this planned out, I'm like, "I wanna do this. I haven't been in New Mexico in years. I really wanna visit Great Sand Dunes. It looks beautiful." And we were meeting up for podcast movement, in Denver afterwards. So, booked the car. It cost me like $700 to $800 just to rent the car. That was basically like over $100 a day for an
Wow.
electric vehicle. I
Mhm.
literally go up to the counter at Hertz and I go, "I've never driven an electric vehicle before." And they're like, "Oh, it's really like easy. There's like apps that tell you where to charge it. We'll put the apps on the screen because I can't remember their names right now. I think one of them's like EVgo, one of
Mhm.
them's like Charge America. I think that's it." They were actually incredibly, incredibly helpful. I also mixed my research in with Google Maps and whatnot, but they tell you the prices, tell you what's in use. It was very,
Oh,
it's
that's
pretty,
cool.
and yeah, it was really good, pretty intuitive. Told you like if there were broken ones, and you could also put like customer input in there as well. But I was like, okay, here goes nothing. So I leave, and the first place I stop at is like Colorado Springs, which is not even that far away, and already wanted to like refuel, like recharge.
Wow.
So I
And that's like
stopped at
an
like,
hour and a half away.
yeah, it's not far. And, but I also didn't know this is because this, see how much I didn't know? And that will bring me to my next point. But, like, when you go up hills, you lose a lot of power, and then you go back down the hills, you gain that, like, electricity back, you gain that battery
What?
back. When you speed up, you lose that battery. When you slow down, you gain it back. So it's weird because you can't really, like, tell what you're actually at in an electric vehicle, because you think, "Oh my gosh, you only have 50 miles left." And all of a sudden, if you slow down and get off the freeway, you get 30 miles back, and they're like, "You actually have 80 miles left." And I'm like, "What?"
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's
Oh.
tricky. I don't know how people gauge it. I mean, people just charge their cars every night, I guess. But like, one thing also, maybe I'll talk about it in my next point. No, I'll just bring it up now, and I have to repeat it. I will. Booking things earlier, basically, I'm saying booking things earlier so you don't have to end up with an electric vehicle or something that you've never used before in your life and that you're trying to learn on the road, because it can be a little daunting. You're like, "Oh shoot, now I have to learn how to like use this entire vehicle while I'm also trying to like get somewhere in a timely manner and not be out as a solo woman when the sun goes down." you know,
Mhm.
or be
Yeah.
in public, just try to be in places where there's other people around in
Yeah.
case something happens. But anyways, we talk about this all the time. Just book early, make sure there's free cancellation. And also bringing me to my second point, which we can apply anywhere while traveling, and some people will heavily disagree with me, so come fight me in the comments, I don't care. Over prepare is my second point, especially if it's something you've never done before, you
Mhm.
know? So there were a lot of places where I didn't get service. I have T-Mobile, right? T-Mobile doesn't get the greatest service in other places. Verizon maybe does, AT&T maybe does, but like if your carrier doesn't have great service, what are you going to do? Especially
Yeah.
if you're one person solo and you have one device. I don't have two phones with me. My
Yeah.
laptop doesn't work without service either, or without Wi-Fi
Right.
either. So if you need to draw out maps on a piece of paper on a napkin, do it in case your phone dies or it's out of service.
Hey, our parents survived. We could survive now.
Right, absolutely. Sometimes I'll even like write directions on a map or on a piece of paper just in case, like, okay, south on the 101 and then west on the 91 or something like that,
Hmm.
just so in case something happens to the phone, you never know.
Yep.
Technology's not always the most reliable, right?
Yep.
I always told at least 3 other people where I am and what my general plan was, just so these other people know. And usually, the other people were part of, and I constantly say this in every safety episode we have, right? I'm like, I always tell 3 people in 3 different groups where
Yeah.
I was, just in case, like make sure I get there, make sure I get to Santa Fe by 8 p.m. tonight. I need to eat dinner, that type of stuff. So it's part of the over preparing. And then one random thing, but I thought was like a good thing to note, the car I rented, this electric vehicle that I didn't know how to use, that I rented, also did not have tinted windows. And I was stopping in some really small towns. And where these electric chargers were, I'm not going to lie, some of them were not in the best areas of town.
Hmm.
And I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't really want to like wait in the car, but I also don't want to leave my stuff in the car.
Hmm.
So it was like a hard decision. I'm like, okay, how much time do I spend near the car? How much time do I keep moving around? So I'm like a moving target versus like a sitting duck,
Right. Right.
which is sad that I'm always like, it sounds like I was just always looking over my shoulder on this road trip, to be honest.
Hmm.
Um, but what I did was, and I didn't intend to do this, I was just lucky, but something to think about if you're road tripping. I brought like sarongs and towels and like large jackets and shirts to kind of cover up my luggage and my bags, like the stuff that had to stay in the car while it was charging,
Hmm.
you know.
Okay.
I even took and this, you know, this is a decision you have to make if you are willing to like air the car out, but I took my sunshade and even put it like over my luggage in the back because I just didn't want anyone like obviously seeing that it was luggage. There were like 3 pieces of luggage in there. So instead
Yeah.
of the sunshade protecting the dashboard, I just put it over the luggage in the back instead.
Hmm.
Um and then going back to that same sunshade, like there were things when I was planning my packing list, things that I didn't want to fly with, but I resolved to purchase while I was at my destination, like a sunshade. So right after I picked up my car, charged it up a bit, I ran to Walmart and grabbed a few things for the road, extra drinks, extra snacks, and a sunshade. But
I remember
knowing
you.
where yeah, yeah,
I
you
remember the
remember me
sunshade.
walking up with it. But, knowing where that Walmart is, knowing what their hours are, knowing what you can buy there and whatnot, knowing what you need beforehand, that's something I'll continue to do for any other solo road trips that I take.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. Maybe we should invent like a traveling portable sunshade
Ooh. Okay,
for all the road
no one take
trippers.
that idea. Yeah, no one take that idea, though. This is a good point. Point number 3. Be comfortable and secure making quick decisions.
Mm.
So I feel like a lot of my stories here go back to my electric vehicle that I had no idea how to use because most of those quick decisions had to do with this EV. Also, the EV for reference was a 2023 Chevy Bolt. So it was a nice new car. It was very clean, very functioning, very high tech. Those of you that don't know, I would drive a 23-year-old car at home. Like it still has like a CD insert and whatnot. Like I can't plug my phone in. So it's very old. So anything like new to me is like, ooh, new, shiny. Like it feels
Hmm.
nice, right? But these quick decisions that I had to make were going back again to where the EV charging stations were in some seedy areas that I didn't feel comfortable in. So I had to be like, okay, when can I set aside an hour of my time? Because also, these EV charging stations, a lot of them were not the fast charge, they're the slow charge, which literally takes 8 hours to charge up. But I was like, I only have like an hour,
Hmm.
like I got to get on the road. I was road tripping, I was driving quite a bit. So I had to decide, should I charge it now while the sun's going down at 6:30 p.m. or should I wake up pretty early tomorrow, early as in like, you know, get charging at 6 a.m. and just do it before I get on the road. So I would make decisions, snap decisions like that. I'm like, okay, when can I fit in an hour of time to get this car charged back up? But that can come in any form, these quick decisions. Like there was another point in time, oh, this was the worst. I was driving back into Southern Oregon. I mean, sorry, Southern Oregon. I was driving back into Southern Colorado. And I knew I was going through a mountain range, and I was heading to Pueblo, was the next big town, Pueblo, Colorado. And it was about, I don't know, an hour, hour and a half away, right? But I
Mhm.
knew it was mountains. So I was like, okay, well, I'm on like a little more than half right now of charge. I could go straight to Pueblo, see if I can make it, risk it, or I can drive 30 minutes this way to a town that I had already charged my car up on the way down to New Mexico, and sit for an hour and a half, charge it up to just get extra juice, and then come a half hour back and then do the hour and a half to Pueblo. So that would have taken another 3 extra hours. And
Damn.
me, I decided, you know what? I'm going to take my time out of the way because I can't fathom what would happen if I ran out of charge going up through these hills.
Yeah.
So
No reception.
exactly, exactly. So, unfortunately, I spent 3 extra hours doing it. Then I went through these hills, and then that's where I learned that when you go up the hill, you lose power, and when you go back down the hill, you gain it back. So, basically, by the time I got the hour and a half to Pueblo, like 4 hours later than I wanted to, I basically still had like almost a full tank. I was like, "What is
That is
this?"
crazy.
I guess better safe than sorry, but that's the
Mhm.
things, like, I didn't know what the Chevy Bolt, like, I didn't know its capacity. Now I know in an EV, like, how it will run. I'd never driven one before. I was so unprepared, right? Also, yeah, it could be directional. It could be about when you're gonna do something on your own, something that may or may not compromise your safety. Um, it could be a decision to this will come up later, a decision to tell someone something that, like, they don't need information on, tell them something else, anything but the truth. That will come
Yeah,
up later.
right?
But yeah, be when you're alone, you don't have anyone to run those decisions through. So you're just going to have to, like, kind of think quickly, act smart.
Mhm.
And if something goes wrong, God forbid, you have to have like a backup plan. Like, I don't know, what would I have done if I was stuck through those mountains? Like,
I
I
would
would
have
have
gotten a
called
rental car and just, like, drove to you. Figure
I
something
would
out.
have called, like, Hertz, AAA, my credit
Mhm.
card, I guess, right? My
Yeah.
AAA, call my credit card, call Hertz, that's 3 people automatically I would have called,
Mhm.
you know?
And it's
But it's
important because
yeah.
and you did this on the trip. You shared your location with me knowing that I was
Oh, yeah,
gonna
I
be in
did. I
Colorado
forgot I
as
did
well.
that.
But, had anything happened and I didn't see you at the conference by the time that you arrived, I would have
Yeah.
checked the location and would have been like, "Something's up,"
Oh, she's
you
stuck
know?
in those mountains. She's stuck in those mountains about 2 hours away
Mhm.
from here.
So, share your locations, even if it's just for the trip, so you don't have to save it indefinitely. It's up
No,
to
for
you.
sure, for sure, yeah. Yeah, but you and I talked almost every day on that trip, so I was like, "Oh, I'm here, I'm here."
Mhm.
So, yeah, that would've been good. I'm always looking out for my friends too that are on trips or that I know are like, "Oh, I'm going, on the Inca Trail for 4 days." I'm like, "Okay, if I don't hear from you by day 6, then where are you?" That
Right.
type of stuff. But yeah, making the quick decisions, I mean, that applies to home, life, work as well. But like I said, when you're on a solo road trip, it's so different, right? You gotta
Mhm.
trust yourself.
Mhm.
So, okay, number 4. If you see something out of the ordinary or feel uncomfortable, speak up. And I
Yes.
know the airport signs will say this to you all the time. See it. What is it? What is it?
If you
See
see
it.
something, say
Say
something.
something. Exactly. I had a situation that I had posted on my Instagram. You know what story I'm about to tell.
I'm trying to
And
remember, but go ahead.
okay. Well, it was really scary. So I was staying at a notable Hilton property in Taos, New Mexico. It's a really small town, but it is also a big gathering spot during like ski season. So
Mm.
during the winter months, it's kind of like the base town that everyone goes and parties and stays at. And then they go up into the mountains close by and ski, snowboard, whatnot. Taos is really like quirky. It's really small. There's not a lot there. There are obviously some nicer hotels that I declined to stay at because I was like, I'm not paying $900 a night for this hotel. So I stayed kind of down the road at a notable Hilton collection property. And it was one of those hotels that like the lobby is separate from the hotel rooms and there are different buildings and there's no gate around the entire property. In all these buildings, anyone from the street can just rock up to the street or anyone from the street can just rock up to the hotel at any point in time.
Mhm.
Anyone from the street. You don't have to be a hotel guest. There's no gate to get through in the parking lot, nothing. Right?
Yeah.
So I was in one of like the front buildings, but the lobby is in front of everything. So you have to walk past the lobby to get there. And I was staying like on the second floor in this building that probably had like 12 to 15 minimum hotel rooms. And it was literally 2 p.m. on a Sunday. I had just gotten out of the shower, but changed. And I was just sitting on my bed, kind of on my phone and watching the TV, making plans for my next move. And luckily, my door this is also another safety tip,
Mhm.
and you'll hear how I did it. But like my door stayed bolted and stayed dead bolted and stayed with the chain on,
Mhm.
especially when I'm in the shower,
Hell yeah.
right? And so I'm sitting on the couch fully clothed, thank goodness, just like waiting for my hair to dry basically. And all of a sudden I hear boom, and then I hear the chain like what's it
Like
called? Yanked
stretch and
back. Yeah,
extend,
this
yeah.
chain stretch and I'm like, "What the hell was that?" And it was literally someone trying to get in the room. So I run to the door and I'm like I'm basically standing by the door already and he's like, "Oh, hi." It was this guy in a black shirt that said AC Towing. I'm like, "AC Towing is not the name of this establishment. This
Right.
establishment is a Hilton property." And he goes, "Oh, I'm just checking for shampoo bottles and the holders. I just wanted to see if your room had any." And I'm like, "No, we don't." And he's like, "Oh, okay. Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I would know. I used the bathroom." He's like, "Okay, great. Thanks." And then I shut the door. I did not open the door for this man. He was also in sunglasses and had a really, really unhealthy, nasty tan on him. So he was
Mhm.
old, short, gray beard, gray hair, wearing a black AC towing shirt, sunglasses so you couldn't tell who he was, asking about shampoos. I'm like, I don't think you're maintenance, bruh. And
Yeah.
so what I thought would happen is he had one of those demagnetizers that opens deadbolts.
That's
Because
scary. I didn't
what
even know that
how
was a
else would you
thing.
open a deadbolt? Thank
Oh,
God I had my chain on,
yeah.
right? So I was freaking the F out. Like I was freaking out because I was like, did this man just literally try to break into my freaking room at 2 p.m. on a Sunday?
Mhm.
Also, I will say I feel like I was being watched because first off, who's at their hotel on a 2 p.m. on a Sunday?
Right.
Most people are out, right?
Yeah.
But 30 minutes prior to that, I was in the pool by myself.
Mm.
And then, I covered up with a towel, walked back to my room, which is probably about 100 yards away.
Yeah.
But that's also the thing too. I'm like, I was also upstairs around like 7 other hotel rooms. Like, was he doing this to every hotel room? And I felt so dumb. I wish I looked out the door, out the peephole, but I was so freaked out and trying to catch my breath. Like, I wanted to see if he was doing that to every other room.
Ooh.
And so first thing I did was call the front desk and say, "Hi, do you have a man in a black AC towing shirt, like going around asking if people have shampoo bottles in the room?" And the first lady, her name was like D or Susan. Yeah, I'm calling y'all out because I'm still in a freaking
Mhm.
Capital One battle with getting these points back because I paid for this damn hotel room on points. So dear Susan at the Hilton, y'all know which Hilton you are in Taos. They were like, "That doesn't sound like our man. That doesn't sound like someone who works in maintenance." And I'm like, "Then why are they here?" Because
Mhm.
this person just tried to break into my room. Can you do something about it? I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry about that. Can you call back later when front desk manager's in?" I'm like, "This is crazy. I need compensation for this." Like the first thing I thought was like my safety is compromised. I was about to leave the next morning at 6 a.m. There's no way I'm gonna check out of this hotel and find another hotel for like $800 somewhere else. Absolutely not.
Mhm.
This was already, and that's the unfortunate part is this 2 night stay was booked with points. So I'm like, there's nothing I can like really do. And so I'm fuming. I leave the hotel room maybe like a half hour later, but not before blasting it all over social media.
Yeah.
Because I wanted, I never post in real time on social media, but I wanted people to know what city I was in, what state I was
Mhm.
in case something happened to me so that people would know, right? I left, I was fuming the entire time, went to a restaurant, fuming for the rest of the night, get back to the property 7, 8 p.m., talk to the front desk, whoever it was. It was a different person who was on the phone earlier. They were just as nonchalant as they were when we were on the phone earlier. And so I was like, I need to talk to someone who actually like has empathy because this is not right. And I was sitting there like demanding a refund, demanding recourse, demanding anything that would make me feel better, make me feel safer. I was
Mhm.
like, you said you have never seen this man. He doesn't sound like a Hilton employee. And now you're just sitting there like picking your ass, not doing anything for
Right.
me. And the only place they had a camera was in the lobby. So they
That's
don't have
shady.
cameras on the additional buildings, you know? And so this
Mm.
taught me a few things. It taught me like I don't want to stay in these types of hotels that have different buildings, especially when there are no cameras anywhere. And there are probably like 10 separate buildings. And like I said, this hotel like stretched long,
Yeah.
right? And anyone from the street can just come on. So anyone can just be come on busting into your room. But now
Mhm.
I think like I feel like I was being watched. And they had the audacity to ask me, they're like, "Oh, were you with anyone earlier?" With
Mm.
anyone?
That
Excuse me?
doesn't matter.
I was like, "What?" Like, no one should be bursting into my room at all.
Mhm.
So, I slept with all the lights on that night. I took a photo. I barricaded the door with a table, a chair, and an ironing board, which is also not smart because I was on the second floor, and if there was a fire, I'd be dead. But rather be dead from a fire than someone trying to break in my room, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was pretty pissed about that. So the next morning, I went back and tried to talk to someone else at the front desk who was very sweet about it. He listened and he was like, "I'm gonna refund this to you." Um, and he did. I got into like some fights with Capital. It's been hell trying to get Capital One. I'm still like fighting with them to this day for the points back. So the
Mhm.
hotel refunded the points, but because Capital One works with Hopper, the points are sitting with some rando at Hopper.
Oh,
And
freaking
so
third
I'm
parties.
irritated, dude, and it was like 350,000 points.
Oh,
It's so many points. And then it was
that's
shady
business
because I
class.
kept calling the hotel. Yeah, I kept calling the hotel back for a week after that happened. And they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Mikey actually got into a really bad car accident." I'm like, "Wait, does this not sound sus as hell?" Because
It's
they
like, why are
knew.
you okay? They shouldn't even be putting people's business out like that, like an employee's business.
That's what I'm saying. And of course, I was already back home at this point. But I'm just like, this is weird. I'm like, is this all connected? Like they were mad that I was like that he was the only one that cared about my business. I talked to two different managers there and they were both like, "I don't know
Mm.
what we can do for you." I'm like, and they're both women. That's the worst part. One woman of color and one white woman.
Ah,
I don't know that that has much to do with anything, but I'm being real. The podcast is about being real.
yeah.
I was not happy. Anyways, that was a long overdrawn story, but that was one of the first time in my travels that my safety felt incredibly compromised, and I was in the United freaking States, y'all.
Mhm.
You see why I was worried about this trip? Like everything was going smooth until day 7 when someone literally tried to break into my room.
Yeah.
I was fuming. I was fuming. Anyways, we got to move on to the other points, but that
But we
point was
thank
like,
you for sharing that
yeah,
side and that story.
thanks.
It's not scary. I mean, it is scary, and you're not alone. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah,
It has happened.
it taught me a few things, like I said about the hotel, like staying in looking at different types of hotels and yeah, just being extra careful because also that hotel manager, Mikey, he said that actually happened. He told me it happened to another woman that the day prior as well. And I was like, "Wait a second. And how did the other two ladies at the front desk not know about it? Or were they
Hmm.
hiding it from me too?"
Yeah.
I was like, "How did it happen to two women on the same day? That's not like random.
Mhm.
This is like planned. Someone's watching, someone's here. Y'all don't care who's on the
Right.
property."
Yeah.
So it's just really bad. But Hilton, what are y'all gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it? Yeah, pissing me
Come
off.
on.
Anyways,
Mhm.
last okay, actually this feeds right into it. Last point. It's okay to lie to protect your safety. And I'm a big proponent of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I usually have Catholic guilt, but like when I'm white lying about stuff, white lie here, white lie there, white lie here, I don't even know what's real anymore.
Yep. Yep.
You
Nope.
know how
We with
many?
you on that.
Yeah. I mean, like, you're protecting your safety. And unfortunately, as women, we have to do this more often than people think, you
Mm-hmm.
know? There's no harm in saying, like, oh, who are you meeting? Oh, I'm meeting my brother. Oh, my dad's waiting for me at the hotel. Calling someone and be like, hey, I'm on my way, you know? Even if you're traveling solo.
Mm-hmm.
But to protect your safety, there's nothing more precious than that, right?
Yeah. Add this to your over preparation as well, because you could
Mm.
have
Mhm.
like have a story in mind already, so you know how you're going to tell somebody.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you're
yeah.
not lying on the spot and it sounds like you're lying, you know.
Mhm,
Just it's
mhm.
practice and rehearsal.
100%, yeah.
Mhm.
Whenever random taxi drivers ask me if I have boyfriends, I go, "Yeah, one in every country."
Ay,
And
ay,
husbands
ay.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I have 7 husbands in
So
Jamaica last time I went.
yeah, Trizzy got 7 husbands.
Mhm. Yeah, don't mess with me.
Oh, I mean, that's I think the story took up a lot of time, but those are my biggest 5 things that I learned about solo road tripping across, like, the West, right? And, um I'd say, yeah, Southern Colorado, Northern New Mexico, as beautiful as they are, I mean, I would go again. Now I know what to do differently, right? I would
Mhm.
definitely go again. There's a lot of places I didn't see. I went wine tasting on my way from Taos back to Denver. I would have spent more time at the national parks. I would have spent more time in Santa Fe. But let's recap those 5 things. 1, book things earlier than you think you need to. 2, over prepare. 3, be comfortable and secure making those quick decisions. You got to be confident in yourself. 4, if you see something out of the ordinary or feel uncomfortable, speak up for yourself. And then number 5, it's okay to lie to protect your safety. So I know this episode I don't know, I didn't want it to seem like a Debbie Downer this episode,
Mm-mm.
but
No,
I
this
learned a
day and
lot from this
age,
road trip.
yeah.
I learned so much. And like I said at the beginning, I don't road trip on my own, especially in rural areas across the US.
Yeah, you really took a big leap, which is very much appreciated. Um, so hopefully, it doesn't hold anybody back. If
Yeah,
anything, it
I hope
just
not.
prepares them.
But this can
Hell
this
yeah.
can go for any road trip that you do. Well, I think we're just used to road tripping to Vegas, used to road tripping all over California,
Hmm.
going to the Phoenix area. But
Yeah,
but yeah, I hope
exactly.
this helps someone else and inspires someone else to also visit Colorado and New Mexico.
Go for it. And thank you guys for listening in on another episode of the Ticket to Anywhere podcast. And we'll catch y'all next time.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Yay. Whoa.
Oh, okay.
What was
Celebration. I didn't know
Can
they
you
do
please
it here.
keep that in?
This is Trizzy at Triz Inc.
This is Leah at LA in Flight.
To find even more travel tips on budgeting, destinations, and our favorite items, sign up for our monthly newsletter, The Check-In, linked in the show notes or description.
This is the Ticket to Anywhere podcast. Thanks for listening.